Good morning, Alliance of Delray. This is Laurie, Executive Vice President. We're going to have a great meeting today. We have several distinguished speakers on our panel, and each speaker will be speaking for about 7 to 10 minutes. We have State Attorney Dave Aronberg here, Chief Assistant State Attorney Alan Johnson, and former Florida Senator Maria Sachs. This is so important, this sober home and human trafficking issue. It is so important to all of our communities. It affects each and every one of us. This program will also be uploaded to YouTube in a link distributed to our Alliance membership. We're going to start off as we always do. We have our distinguished first responders here to speak to us, to give us updates. And today we have Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, who we are going to spotlight right now. And there you go, Sheriff Bradshaw, please provide an update.
Good morning to everybody. First, let me just tell you how great it is to have the State Attorney Aronberg as our partner when we're out there fighting this human trafficking, opioids. You know, it's not going to do any good for us to grab the bad guys if they're not going to stay in jail and get prosecuted. So he's a great partner. He's a strong prosecutor, him and his team there, along with Alan Johnson. So we're fortunate to have them involved with this. Quick update on some things. Number one, the COVID task force is still out there. We're well on our way into phase 3. Compliance has been good. You know, the public has been great. We all realize that the only way we're going to keep going forward is we got to go by the rules. So we're making sure everybody is going to adhere to what the mandates are so we can keep going forward. Number two, and you've seen it out there if you're watching the weather, the storms are still active. There's some real bad ones. Fortunately, they're moving away from us, but we're not out of the woods yet there. So I encourage people to stay vigilant, make sure you got what you need so you don't have to wait till the last minute and clog these stores up. Last, and I know what's on everybody's mind because I get asked this question every time I talk, is how are we doing with election security on election day? I'm in constant contact with the supervisor of elections, Wendy Link, to make sure that she has everything that she needs, not only for the security on early voting and election day at the polls, to make sure everybody's going to be able to get in, get out in an orderly fashion, and no one's going to have a problem with any type of protest at any of the polls, to make sure that the tabulation centers are going to be properly protected. So regardless of when these votes come in and they're tabulated, that the security of the buildings and the security of the votes are going to be in place. We're going to make sure that somebody can't call in these false bomb threats or things like that, because we're going to just sweep the buildings with our bomb protection dogs beforehand. So if somebody calls in a bomb threat, we're going to say, no, that's not possible because we've already made sure the buildings are clear. So be rest assured that election day, the security of you at the polls, the security of your votes at the tabulation center are in place. I know that Wendy Lake today is at a tabletop exercise with the FBI on any type of active shooter thing, and we provided her the information on that and how that's going to go. So everybody feels safe, everybody feel confident, but the main thing is get out there and vote. It's an important election. We're going to need every single one of them.
Thank you so much for that update, Sheriff Bradshaw. Thank you for protecting us, keeping us safe. And the county really appreciates all your work, and the Alliance membership does as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to go on to Captain Rob Sant to spotlight him, and he'll tell us also a few things about what we're going to also have after this program.
All right, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe and healthy. I know we got an action-packed morning laid out for us today, so I'm going to make it real brief. A couple of things I want to tell you guys about is that we've had a couple of distraction thefts as of late where suspects are coming and posing as tree trimmers. They'll ring the doorbell, make contact with the homeowners, unsuspecting homeowners, pose as tree trimmers, gain their confidence over a matter of minimal time, walk through their home, radio to their partners to the back, distract them in the backyard while the other part of the crew come in. And they go right to the bedroom and they're stealing thousands and thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. So please, I've notified all the security directors in West Delray Beach. You understand the partnership I have with them. They're on high alert. The good news too about it though is Martin County picked up a crew. We believe the investigation is still ongoing, but we believe is connected with the cases we've had in here at Delray Beach. So stay tuned. Another good case we got to get some update on. I'm sure you've heard me mention this several times over the last couple of years. Is the credit card, the debit scams from the banks. We've made a very big break in the case thanks to our partners in the federal agencies, our state attorneys, our detectives. Everybody's done an incredible job. So just so you guys know, we've had about 160 cases in the county alone. 64 of those cases landed right here in West Delray Beach. But I'm pleased to announce to you, we've cleared 64 of those cases by arrest. So I contribute that to all the hard work of everybody involved in the investigative part of it. But I also contributed to all the cooperation throughout the years from the citizens out there. I firmly believe that because of your efforts, you made it very difficult for these criminals to stay the status quo. They needed to change tactics and maneuver around law enforcement because you were not letting them into communities. You were not falling for it, and they had to lure them out, which gave us an opportunity to gain some more evidence on them. So it's worked out very well, and I appreciate it. Last but not least, Dr. Vanacore, I want to start by saying thank you very much for your support, specifically to this upcoming CRAZE training. Folks, I want everybody to stay. I know it's a long day. It's going to be a packed morning, but please do your best to stay. Excuse me. You guys, please do your best to stay at the end for this important training that our Homeland Security Sergeant Series group. We worked a lot behind the scenes to make this happen for everybody. So please, it's going to be worth your time. That's about all I have this month. I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Captain Sant. Yes, and let's all stay on for that program following it. Terrific. Now we have Chief Anthony Tozy here from the firefighters.
Looks like he's muted.
You need to unmute yourself.
There you go. How's that?
Great.
Perfect. I hope everybody can hear me okay with the mask on. I know we were talking about it before the meeting, the masks, and the reason I have it on is I'm going to switch things up a little bit today. Rather than going over our call load, which, as you know, here in the 4th Battalion is extremely high. We're the busiest in Palm Beach County and one of the busiest in the nation, to be quite honest. I want to actually take a moment to introduce you to one of my command staff, somebody that's not only a good friend of mine, but somebody that is just, he plays a huge role in the safety of our battalion and the people that we serve. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my EMS Captain, Chad Barton. Tell you a little bit about Chad. He's been on my command staff. So in my battalion on each shift, which we have 3, I have 2 command staff members. I have a battalion chief and I have an EMS captain. Captain Barton's position is he's the highest medical authority in our battalion. So he's responsible for all 8 of our fire stations, all our rescue trucks, all the personnel underneath him. When Chad's out on a scene, it's because it's a very bad scene. So while you don't want to see him, you do want to see him because there's nobody better in the business. I've had the pleasure of working with him for over 20 years. He's been in the position he's in now for 11 years in the busiest battalion in Palm Beach County. He could have bid out, he's got seniority, but he's chose to stay, and he's just a valued member. And I wanted to spotlight him today and tell you a little bit about him. To put things in perspective, on the average day, we might get 1 cardiac arrest in our stations around. And as you know, that, aside from a trauma call, our cardiac arrests are the most highest priority call we get. What was it, last week, Chad?
Yeah.
Chad ran, tell him how many calls you ran, cardiac arrest calls.
Typically, we run about 2 or 3 cardiac arrests in a 24-hour period. I believe it was 2 weeks ago, I ran 11 in one day. It was quite substantially larger than I usually do. But the crews we have in Bat 4 are fantastic at running codes. And we do a lot of them, but we have a lot of success with them too. I couldn't have a better group of guys to work with, and they do a fantastic job on a daily basis.
Thanks, Chad. So as you can see, it is quite busy down here, but it's important for me to share with you just the level of commitment Palm Beach County has to our citizens, and having somebody like Chad at the helm as our highest medical authority each shift is paramount to our success and to the safety of all our residents. So with that, I'd just like to welcome all our guests and say hello. I see a lot of friends in the audience. And I'd like to echo the sentiments of our sheriff. Please be vigilant. Don't let your guard down. We have 2 months to go. We saw a horribly powerful storm just hit Mexico, and now it's going to be out there in the Gulf. So we'll pray for our folks that might, still be subjected to that, and just remain vigilant. Have a great month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Tozy. And we just have a little special guest right before we get into the program. In just 2 minutes, we're going to be getting right into the program. We're going to spotlight Senator Laurie Berman, who joined us for a few minutes to give us an update. Great to see you here today.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Delray Alliance. And I don't want to take much time because the program is so important. But I want to remind everyone that, as you know, Palm Beach County is in phase 3. A lot of things are open, but that doesn't mean that you need to go. Social distancing is still as important as ever. Wearing your mask is as important as ever. So make sure to continue to protect yourself. I also want to remind you that my office is always there for anything you need. We still have many people in the state who have not gotten unemployment insurance or who have had problems getting their full amount of unemployment insurance. My office, 561-292-6014, always available to help you with any problems with anything having to do with the state issues. And if it's not a state issue, we will know where to refer you for appropriate help. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and so glad to represent you in the Delray Alliance.
Thank you so much, Senator Berman. One thing before we start, just to let everybody know, next month, we're going to be broadcasting the day after the election, actually. And that is going to be a special broadcast with our Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, explaining everything about how they handle patients with this COVID pandemic, and right from the door to the emergency room, and how you can protect yourselves. And we're going to learn a lot more about that. And if you have any particular interests to our membership that you think would be a great Zoomcast meeting for the future, let us know. Email us, or you can even use the chat button here on the screen to give suggestions for future programming. That would be great. We're going to have some exciting program in the future. And I've been discussing with our president, Bob Schilbaum, maybe we'll even have a little fun and maybe give out some prizes in the future. We're going to see how we can work it out and be more interconnected with our membership and with our communities. So more to follow. Right now, we are going to start the program. Each speaker is going to be speaking. We have to, as I said before, State Attorney Dave Aronberg is first here. Then we will have Chief Assistant State Attorney Alan Johnson, and then former Florida Senator Maria Sachs. This is about sober homes and human trafficking. It affects each and every one of us and our communities. And we will see where we've been, where we're going, suggestions, and all of how we are going to handle this and how it's been handled. Each speaker is going to speak for about 7 to 10 minutes. And then following this program, that is when we're going to have the civilian response to active shooter event from the PBSO. So please, State Attorney Aronberg, go ahead. So great to have you here today.
It's great to be back with you, Dr. Laurie, and the Alliance. I'm here with Al Johnson. I want to make sure you know the Chief Assistant State Attorney. He's done an outstanding job leading our Sober Homes Task Force. And I want to talk to you about the issue of the Sober Homes Task Force, where we are, an update on the situation in the county, and it dovetails into human trafficking, because you will find that in the rogue sober homes, there is human trafficking, there is rampant drug use, insurance fraud, patient brokering, kickbacks, and it'll be a great segue to my former colleague, Senator Maria Sachs, to do a great presentation on human trafficking. So she'll take the baton from there. But to start, I'm going to share my screen here. I hope everyone can see that.
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, we have this pandemic, and so people forgot about the original epidemic, the opioid epidemic. The opioid epidemic never went away. It just got pushed aside while all of our attention is paid to coronavirus. But the pandemic has made the opioid epidemic worse. We were very successful in cleaning up a lot of the rogue sober homes in our community, a lot of the overdoses. We had a huge decrease. When we cleaned up the sober home industry, we saw a 40% decrease in the number of opioid overdose deaths in Palm Beach County in 2018. Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, it has increased because as people are in isolation and they can't get services, they are sadly overdose. And also, fentanyl is now the new driver. The opioid epidemic is now a fentanyl epidemic, and we're going to get to that. So the first slide, there we go. This is the model of recovery that was pioneered in Florida. Someone has substance use disorder, which is an addiction. Usually it's an opioid addiction. They come down to Florida to get treatment because Florida has always had a thriving drug treatment industry. So they see an advertisement or they get a referral and they come down to Florida, they get detoxed. Insurance must pay for that. Under the Affordable Care Act, you get detox treatment. That gets you dry. That's like 4 days. Then you go to inpatient treatment. That's about a week. And then the insurance says, okay, you're done. You have to go to outpatient treatment. Now, outpatient treatment, don't worry about these acronyms. They're just different types of outpatient care. You don't live there. You just get counseling and you get drug tested and all these different types of outpatient treatment. But where do you live when you're going through that? Well, you're on your own. You got to find a place to live. And a common place for people to live while they're in recovery is a sober home. In a sober home, there's no treatment. There's no insurance reimbursement. It's just a group home. Anyone can operate one. You can open up one right now, today. Even in your HOA, you can operate one. You could say, hey, I'm going to rent out my 3-bedroom house to 9 people. We're going to charge $200 a week, and I'm going to make sure that they stay clean. It's going to be a drug-free, mutually supportive environment. And when the HOA says, no, you cannot have 9 unrelated people, then you say, well, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, I'm allowed. And under federal law, indeed, you're allowed. So that's how federal law protects sober homes. Unfortunately, it protects the good ones and the flop houses, the bad ones. That's where we come in to target the illegal activities in the sober homes, in the outpatient care centers, the kickbacks that go back and forth. But in this model, everything is great. You live in a sober home while you're getting outpatient treatment. You're there for about 30 to 60 days, and then you're sober and you go home. That's in theory. In practice, though, it's the Florida shuffle. You have all the big money floating around with illegal kickbacks. The marketer gets paid for sending you to a treatment center in Florida. You get a free plane ticket to come down here. That's also a felony. And then everyone is getting paid for their kickbacks and their referrals. The labs get money because they make money off your urinalyses, and then they kick back money to the sober home. So everyone's doing well. In fact, if you are the patient, you're loving this because you get free rent at the sober home. You're getting a free scooter to get around town. Your sober home may be co-ed. They look the other way when you do drugs. Could be human trafficking going on there. There was a sober home that owned by Kenny Chapman who required all women who lived there to have sex with strangers for money. If not, he kicked them out of the sober homes. And if you didn't want to do that, you had to go to Worth Avenue in Palm Beach and steal purses and bring them back. And if you tried to leave, the windows and the doors were sealed shut and all your identification and keys and everything were taken away. So in this model of reality here, the only bubble here that is not profitable is sobriety. It's hard enough to remain sober as it is, let alone knowing your sobriety will cost you your free housing, your scooter, your friends, and now you got to move back to New Hampshire, live with your parents, and find a job. Or you can test dirty again. You can relapse, and the cycle begins anew. And under the Affordable Care Act, there's no limitation, yearly or lifetime, on how many times you can go through this cycle. So the bad players in the industry want you to relapse. It's a relapse model, not a recovery model. They want you to keep going through it. They get paid more every time you go through it. And that's why Al Johnson and I went to Congress to urge them to fix the Affordable Care Act to incentivize recovery instead of relapse. to incentivize the good players in the industry instead of the bad ones. They have not done that yet, which is why we formed our Sober Homes Task Force. In the meantime, we went after people like the guy I'm showing you in the next slide. See these marketers? Here's one of them on Facebook, brazenly bragging about how much money he was making through kickbacks.
Hey, no rob, no steal, do everyone right. You'll get this in about 3 days. About 3 days. Believe that. Believe that. Believe that, boy. Believe that.
There it is. All right. So to combat that, we started a task force. We created a civilian work group of doctors, clinicians, patient advocates, industry lawyers, lots of agency representatives. They were long meetings. They were kind of dry at times, but we got a lot done. You see, we took a picture of the meeting at an angle to make it look more exciting. But it is they got a lot done. Al Johnson did an outstanding job leading these meetings to come up with new laws. And now the state of Florida, because of the legislation we proposed out of these meetings, now has the best laws in the country when it comes to the Florida Shuffle, when it comes to drug treatment. We even impaneled a grand jury report that shamed Google for its marketing practices and made Google change its policies. It's one thing to get the government to change. It's another thing to get Google. That was impressive. But the thing we're best known for is the law enforcement side. We have a dedicated task force where we work with police who are on loan from the county to investigate, to arrest and prosecute the people who are engaged in these felonies. And they're new felonies because before we passed the laws, a lot of these things were just treated like a slap on the wrist. And as a result, we've had 109 arrests since November 2016. Here's the guy, Kenny Chapman, who sealed the doors and windows shut for sober homes and promoted human trafficking. He's now serving 27.5 years in federal prison. So far, we have 59 convictions and more to come. We've got $1.3 million in fines, forfeitures. So we are not slowing down. We're continuing full speed ahead. And as a result, we've had a 40% drop in opioid overdose deaths in Palm Beach County in 2018. That's the good news. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Tazi. By the way, Chief Tazi and I, his brother, and I went to high school together back at North Miami Senior High School. Just a little tidbit. And you went to the same high school too, Chief, right? But I think you're a little bit older than we are. But yeah, I'm just saying. You look younger, but you may be a couple years older. I put this slide up because it's positive, but also I want you, if you're on Twitter, to please follow me on Twitter at Aronberg, and that's Cookie, the Basset Hound of Justice. The last slide is a little bit more negative. This is the final slide. This is about fentanyl and COVID and how that has changed the game and undone a lot of our progress. We're still doing great on cleaning up the Florida Shuffle. We're still cleaning up the sober home industry. And now we have the best drug treatment industry in the country because it's the cleanest, as a lot of the bad players have left to go to other places. But Al Johnson can describe what we're facing right now with fentanyl, which is a game changer. And that combined with COVID has really hurt us here in Palm Beach County and throughout the country. So Al, I'm going to leave it up to you for the final slide.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Hello, everyone. Well, yeah, Dave leaves me to give you the bad news. We live in a world of whack-a-mole. I can tell you this, the successes of the Sober Homes Task Force, the legislation that we passed, especially with regard to the law enforcement efforts, along with the Sheriff's Office and other agencies, including Delray Beach Police, we have, in large, not completely, but fraud still exists, but in large, we have cleaned up Palm Beach County, and the bad actors have either gone to jail or gone to other places. But as I said, we live in a world of whack-a-mole, so now we're facing a perfect storm. Fentanyl, which is 100 times more potent than morphine, and some of the analogs that are even more potent, are killing people at an alarming rate across the country. And then you add COVID-19 with the loneliness and the unemployment, because many of the younger people who have substance use disorder issues are work in the service sector. They may work at hotels, they may work at restaurants, bars, and they all lost their jobs, were furloughed or fired in March. So I did a little digging, called Ariana Ciancio, your community liaison. She's a licensed professional, And kudos to Delray Beach PD for hiring her because she's doing amazing work. She gave me the OD mapping real-time information for March through September of 2019 and 2020. And Delray Beach, let me get to Delray Beach here, has been a 38% increase in overdose deaths, opioid overdose deaths. It seemed to slow down. May was the worst month. We had no overdose deaths in 2019. We had 11 in 2020. Now, unfortunately, the data numbers lag. The CDC numbers are only coming out for 2019, and they're hard to find, at this point. But we do know anecdotally, and with the information that's coming in, that COVID-19 is a real driver of overdoses. So we have to turn our attention to that. We're working with the Addiction Stabilization Unit, Palm Beach County Healthcare District, to try to get telemedicine medication-assisted treatment, which is not available in Florida, although the feds have allowed it as an emergency. So we're working on that, but there still is fraud. But now we've the Sober Homes Task Force. We're turning our attention to how do we deal with COVID-19 and the fentanyl epidemic that's happening. So again, a little bit of bad news. The numbers are going up. I looked at the medical examiner numbers through September, and we look like we're going to be as bad as we were, not as bad as 2017, but unfortunately the numbers are going up due to these two issues. So that's it for me. I think I'll yield my time to the next speaker, or if Dave wants to close up.
Oh, well, that was great. Terrific. We're going to bring this back to, thank you so much. We're going to spotlight State Attorney Aronberg again to wrap that up, and then we'll go right on to Senator Maria Sachs.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie, and thank you, Alliance. With your help, we were able to clean up the sober home industry in Palm Beach County, and ground zero was Delray Beach, because Delray Beach always had the thriving drug treatment industry, but it was corrupted by rogue actors who flooded our communities looking for a pot of gold in all the new federal benefits that were passed to try to get people treatment for the opioid epidemic. And so what we've done is make Delray Beach again a place where people can look to as a role model for how treatment should be run. All those flop houses that you saw out there, they're pretty much gone. And I'm very proud of that. But there's some things out of our control, like COVID, like fentanyl that's now inundating our community. And as a result, you don't want to fight the last war. You want to move and adjust to fighting the new threat. And so we're doing that. That's why this year is going to be another spike, but I anticipate, based on our responses to that the next year will be better. But with that, thank you for your help, your assistance. Alliance, your support was invaluable in all of this, and I hope you'll have us back.
Thank you, yes. And we will, if you can, after Senator Sachs is speaking, there may be some questions. We have a Q&A, and people do know how to use that. So you can check the Q&As. Our panelists can all read them if they come in, okay? But you've done a great job explaining it. There may not even be any questions. We're going to now spotlight former Senator Maria Sachs. Great to have you here today. Thank you so much. And you can unmute yourself, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. And we know the work you've done in the legislature on the human trafficking issue. And so please go ahead and proceed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vinegar. And thank you, Bob Schulbaum, and everybody in the Alliance. You know, you are one organization that always highlights what is happening in our community and to keep us safe. And this is, and you have stars on, I tell you, to have Dave, to share the stage here with Dave Aronberg. I'm truly humbled, not to mention Alan Johnson. And I'm glad that we all should feel safer, because Delray Beach was one of the hot spots in the country on this, and they have both tackled it with the efforts of the task force to really make things happen. Let me just tell you for a minute why I got involved in this area of human trafficking. This dates back to years ago when I was in when I was taking a master's thesis, doing a master's thesis at Boston University. No, I didn't go to school with anybody here, unfortunately, but this was a big issue many, many years ago, and I wrote a master's thesis on it. And I could see that this is the #1 issue for generations. Human trafficking is basically a business of trade in human beings. And as I said, it's been going on for centuries. However, in the last 25 years, it has become the #1 cash business in the world. The #1 cash business, bigger than drugs, bigger than guns. So it is a form of modern day slavery that affects the entire world, but especially the United States. So what is human trafficking? It is the illegal trade of human beings for either sexual exploitation or for forced labor. And where is human trafficking? Where does it occur? There's a wonderful organization called the Polaris Project out of Washington, and it really tracks all of the areas of human trafficking around the world, especially the United States. Well, of course, Florida's #3. We're fast becoming #2 in the country for a hotspot for human trafficking. Where does it occur? It occurs in spas, massage parlors. It occurs in the black web. And State Attorney Aronberg talked about how he was successful in being able to stop a lot of that, but it's still going on. There's still trafficking going on in the black web, but it also occurs in sober homes. And very interestingly, it occurs with what is called a Romeo pimp. This is usually a young guy, usually good looking, very charming, and he's able to lure young girls into the whole commercial practice of human trafficking. And so what they'll do is sometimes they'll go and they meet the parents, meet the brothers and sisters. Little by little, he drugs the young girl and then is able to lure her into the underworld of human trafficking. Many times, in looking at what our state attorney talked about, it occurs in sober homes. I'll give you an example, specific example here in Delray Beach. When somebody is unable to pay, the insurance runs out, there's no more money. She's 18, 19 years old. She's either thrown out in the street or she can pay through her human trafficking, through sexual abuse. And also in that last case that was mentioned, they'll board up the doors and the windows, and she's basically held as a slave. And this is one way that these operators are able to lure new people in with the idea that there's a girl in the back that they all abuse. So it's really shocking. Many of the areas that I targeted when I was in the legislature are these little motels along Florida's strip malls, not just here in Palm Beach, but also in the Orlando area, where girls are targeted and then they're used in these motel rooms. Somebody will go on the black web, they pay, they go to a certain address, and there a lot of it takes place. When it's really frightening when you think that this is happening in our backyard. So what I did with the help of many other legislators, but I really focused on what we can do. What can we do to stop this type of illegal trade that's occurring right here? And one thing that we're able to get through is that through the legislature is that there are signs in every airport, every bus stop, train stations. There are signs that are in 3 languages. I wanted 6, but we're able to get 3 right now. 3 languages advising a person that if they are a victim of human trafficking, this is what they need to do. And it gives, and I'll give at the end of my little talk, the 888 number that they can call. It's completely anonymous, and that we can work with them and get them into a safe home. There is a trafficking hotline. We started that. I was appointed to the governor's task force against human trafficking. That was one of the things that we did. Another thing that we were able to push through in the legislature is this, and this is where Alan and Dave come through. Look, it's a crime to solicit prostitution. It's a crime to be a prostitute, and the acts of prostitution are felonies. When our state attorneys throughout the state, but especially here in Palm Beach County, when they suspect that, or there is evidence to suspect that a young person, and it could be a guy too, it could be a young boy as well as a girl, are victims of human trafficking, that they are not on their own soliciting prostitution, then what they do is they place them in a special category, not as a defendant or a suspect, but as a victim. And as a victim, they are given a therapeutic counseling. The feds come in and help us out, and they will give them special status if they are immigrants. They'll give them special status so they can stay here if they agree to testify against the bad guys. And if they agree to go through therapeutic counseling, and most of them do. Now, how does a prosecutor determine if someone is a victim or if someone is a defendant? Pretty sharp defendant saying, you know, I didn't really want to do this, but I was forced to do it. There are certain ways that you can find out, and these are all listed that are given out to law enforcement officers as well as state attorneys, and that is that they'll be branded. There's a brand usually that will identify the person belonging to somebody else or belonging to a group of guys, and that will be an indication that that person is a victim. Many times they don't want to talk about being a victim of human trafficking, and so these are all indications that this person is not a defendant, not a suspect, but a victim, and can come under this umbrella of being able to help them. And thank goodness we have very sharp state attorneys and law enforcement as well, which watches out for this. So our goal today here in Palm Beach County is to put an end to this form of modern slavery. We should not even have it in our neighborhoods. If anybody suspects that there is human trafficking going on, and let me give you an example. Somebody called me a couple of months ago and said, I keep seeing this white van come by my neighborhood. I live in a gated community, they said. White van comes in and all these young girls go out and they all go into a particular house. We don't know who. This is rented out all the time. We don't know who it is. Well, I suggested that they call. Don't ever confront anybody who you think could be part of a human trafficking ring. But there is a number that you can call, and I'm going to give it to you now, and help will immediately go to that area, whether it's in an airport or whether it's in your homeowners association, or sometimes you see somebody on the street and they look disoriented. They young person, they look hungry. They don't know where to go. Best thing to do is to call this number. The number is 1-888-373-7880. I'm going to repeat it, 1-888-373-7880. It goes to a special line that is only for human trafficking. And they will go ahead and respond to wherever you say that you suspect there is human trafficking. And I think this is the only way that we can put an end to it for once and for all. And I think with the help of the task force that State Attorney Aronberg has put together and Alan is working on so diligently, we can all together sort of put our arms around these young people who have been victimized over and over again, and that we can really get them some therapeutic counseling and give them some help. So thank you, Doctor, for putting this on, giving us a platform to talk to everybody. You know, Florida is number 3 in the country. We're fast becoming number 2. It's tied in with the sober home industry. And people are always shocked when I tell them that most of the victims of sexual human exploitation in Palm Beach County, the victims don't come from other countries. The vast majority of victims are American girls. And they, most of the stories that I have heard and documented in my journal is that they come from broken homes, many of them running away from home. They have a couple of dollars in their pocket. First place they want to go is Florida and the beaches. And when they get here, the money runs out, and that's when they're entrapped into this web of sexual exploitation. We as residents here and as community activists, as everyone here is in the Alliance, we have the eyes and the ears to do something about it, and either contact that number or contact law enforcement and let them know that you suspect that somebody is involved in that. This is the way we're going to put a stop to it. We're all part of this effort to stop it. Thank you, Dr. Vinegar, for putting this on. It's given us a good showcase on how to stop it.
Thank you so much, Senator Maria Sachs. Thank you. And what we're going to do here now is we're going to be going into the craze course momentarily. We sent out that phone number on the chat to all our attendees and our panelists. And what we can do is if State Attorney Dave Aronberg would like to have any closing comments, I'm going to spotlight State Attorney Aronberg. And State Attorney Aronberg, if you would like to unmute yourself, I could, great. Do you have any last words to say while we end the program?
The only thing is that kudos to Maria Sachs for fighting this good fight, because there are now more slaves in the world today than ever before in human history. And human trafficking is hiding in plain sight. It's not the tying someone up and duct taping their mouth and smuggling them across the southern border. That's more Hollywood than reality. What's reality is the woman who works at her nail salon, who lives in the back room, who's not allowed to handle the cash and is afraid to look at you in the eye. That's a telltale sign of human trafficking in plain sight.
Thank you so much, State Attorney Dave Aronberg and Chief Assistant State Attorney Alan Johnson and former Florida Senator Maria Sachs for providing this program to us, which will be in its entirety on YouTube, and we'll be sending the link out to all of our Alliance network, which is a huge email network, and it's gotten even bigger since this whole pandemic has started, and people need to get the information out, and this is the way we get it to them, through these meetings.